you must do everything you can to defeat the retrograde forces that have invaded our democratic process, divided our House, to fight against, no matter your political persuasion, the dictatorial tendencies of the candidate with zero experience in the much maligned but subtle art of governance.
Filmmaker Ken Burns was both passionate and political in his Stanford University commencement speech. The video became an online sensation, but it marks a departure. Burns has spent more than 35 years telling America's story in documentaries. They include the Civil War, the national parks, and recently Jackie Robinson. His first book for kids was published this week. It is called Grover Cleveland Again? A Treasury of American Presidents. Ken Burns, welcome back to Studio 57.
Thank you, Charlie.
So what led to this?
The book?
Yes.
Well, I'm a lucky man. I have 4 daughters, aged 33 to 5, and when my oldest was...
Wait, 33 to 5.
Not the same wife.
33 to 5.
But being the historian...
I never thought of Ken as a Mac Daddy, but okay. Okay.
No, I am very rich in daughters. And my oldest daughter, Sarah, I drilled her with the presidents. We'd lie awake, and I'd go George, and she'd say Washington, and I'd say John, she'd say Adams. And then I said to her, you know, when she finished it, she'd always get to the 2 non-consecutive terms of Grover Cleveland and go, Grover Cleveland again, exclamation point. And then I said, we should do a book. And then my daughter Lily, the same thing. And then after a long pause, then I had Olivia, the same thing. And after Olivia, I said, you know, I really have to do this. And by the time Willa, my 5-year-old, got around to memorizing it just this past year, we had completed this book, which is a way to invite people into the political process. You know, we're talking all this morning about what's wrong with the political process.
Well, you've been outspoken on that, too.
Humanize these people.
Very outspoken about that. We want to talk to you about that, but I'm fascinated by your bedtime reading choices, because in my house it was Goodnight Moon, Love You Forever,
Giving Tree.
Yeah, Giving Tree.
We've had those all.
But you wanted to focus on the presidents. But what I think is interesting about this book is that you show the humanity, their dogs, their wives, their children.
You know, let's leave it to the later generations to say this person's bad and this person's good. We wanted to know their pets. They wanted to know their siblings and their parents and where they came from and some interesting things. Andrew Jackson was a practical joker. He liked to move people's outhouses to a new spot at night, you know.
The book is layered, too.
Yeah, well, it's sort of, I called it like a kind of a Grand Canyon. So if you're a 5-year-old, it could be what they call in publishing an abecedaria. You could just, like an ABC book, you can just memorize the list of the presidents, which is what you do. But if you're a 6 or a 7-year-old writing that 1 half-page report, or an 8 or 9-year-old doing a 1 or 2-page report, or even older, this book has enough layers in it that it ought to be able to compel you and send you to other places, and to do so without the judgment that we spend our adult lives making about these people. They're human beings.
A great way to get kids interested, too. John Quincy Adams had a pet
alligator. Yes, and you know, Abraham Lincoln is the tallest. Madison is the smallest. You know, Madison was the lightest. William Howard Taft is the fattest. And you know, these are all human beings that had.
Did Chewie get stuck in the bathtub?
No. I think because he was so big, they had to order a special tub for William Howard Taft, and it takes us only in our imaginations 1 step, 1 degree of separation to make him stuck in the bathtub.
And you write in terms of, you know, some of the presidents that have had some personal issues.
Yes.
You write about that, but you write about it in such a way that it's not...
salacious.
Salacious. That's what
you know what? All of these presidents
salacious,
have deep human flaws, as we all do. And that what we have to do as human beings is try our best not to make the other wrong, try our best to sort of balance these out, to understand that heroism isn't perfection, but a kind of interesting negotiation between strength and weakness. And that's what we try to do here for children, to understand that there's issues of race and slavery that are, you know, affecting almost all of the, so far, men here. There's a lot of things about finances and also of mistakes they've made.
Can we turn to politics and the speech? Because in this speech, which has gotten so much attention, you talked about American politics.
You know what, you said that I was passionate and political. I'd like to say I was passionate and American. As you know, Charlie, I've spent my entire professional life being straight down the middle, nonpartisan, just trying to tell American facts. I try in public television to reach all audiences. It isn't, you know, the Upper West Side and Russian Hill. It's you know, we have good ratings in Alaska and Oklahoma and Arkansas and West Virginia, and I love it that way. But there comes a time when we have to stop and say, you know, each one of the people here, even Zachary Taylor, who had no previous experience, was qualified for this office. That is not the case this year. And those of us who know just a little bit about history are aghast at the amount of oxygen this candidacy has gotten.
Why is Donald Trump not qualified?
He is just temperamentally unsuited, and we like to think of that in a psychological way, and that may be true. I can't psychoanalyze him, but he's riddled with lies and inconsistencies and will say whatever it takes. He didn't give us any information on his own finances, but more important, if you're interested in having a healthy economy, if he does half the things he's promised, we're going to make the recession of 2008, 2009 look like child's play. If you're interested in world stability, what he said about NATO and what that will then produce with Russia and China, who will become more aggressive and adventurous, and how he'll react,
Ken, you know,
we don't want that war.
We have to go. It's been Donald Trump's MO when attacked that he strikes back. Are you prepared for that? Are you worried about that?
Look, I'm an American citizen. I've read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I'm not sure that he has. There's a wonderful part of it called the First Amendment. I'm allowed to say something. I don't represent the views of PBS or anybody else. I represent myself as a citizen, and I've joined with a lot of historians.
Ken Burns.
A lot of historians.